Recent years, Ghana has witnessed a disturbing rise in violent attacks on bullion vans, incidents that not only threaten the lives of security personnel and civilians, but also expose critical gaps in the nation's financial security infrastructure. Despite the high-profile nature of these crimes, police investigations into many of these cases have dragged on with little public disclosure or resolutions. ChannelOne News' Ni Aikwe Okai throws the spotlight on some of these cases in the following report.
By mid-2021, a wave of violent attacks on bullion vans swept across Ghana, leaving in its wake a trail of blood, fear, and unanswered questions. In just 6 months, 4 such incidents were recorded, each one a chilling reminder of how vulnerable the nation's cash transfer system had become. 3 of these brazen attacks ended with armed robbers fleeing with the contents of the vans. 2 ended in the tragic deaths of police officers. And in June, the violence reached an alarming crescendo. 2 attacks in just 3 days. On the morning of June 14, the bustling community of Adedenkpo near Jamestown in Accra was shaken by gunfire. Armed robbers targeted a bullion van in transit, killing a police escort and a civilian woman in the process. The driver, left critically injured, could only watch as the assailants made away with the money. Before the nation could catch its breath, another attack followed. On June 17, passengers aboard a bullion van with registration number GN 6956-17 were ambushed along the Winneba-Accra Highway at the Ocherekun and Dominance stretch. Shots were fired, but the full details of the robbery remain murky, like so much else in these investigations. That same month, a daring daylight robbery at North Kaneshie's industrial area was narrowly foiled. A nearby police officer acting swiftly confronted the armed assailants who, in their escape, unleashed a spray of bullets into the air, scattering onlookers and stoking fear in the community. But the most tragic of the attacks came later. At a fuel station in Ablekuma Fanmilk, General Corporal Callistus Amwa was on duty escorting a bullion van when armed robbers opened fire. He died on the spot. Suspects have since been arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder and murder, offering a glimmer of justice, but only a glimmer. In the wake of these attacks, then Inspector General of Police Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare promised swift action and thorough investigations. Yet, nearly 4 years later, details on progress remain scarce. For families of the fallen officers and a public desperate for reassurance, the silence is deafening. Security analyst Colonel retired Festus Abwaje warns that the lack of transparency and slow pace of investigations could have dire consequences.
You promote and condone impunity because when people commit crimes, because we're a rule of law-based society, there must be consequences. But the consequences can only be applied if the appropriate institution, in this case the police, are able to investigate, gather the evidence, prepare whatever docket and so on, take the case to court, and on the basis of that evidence, for the judiciary to now send them to jail. So where there has been political interference or intervention, and the police have been asked not to investigate, then of course the perpetrators of crime go away with it. The police will lose professionalism, they will lose public trust. It is not every crime that can be solved. But it can also not be the case that no crime is solved. So somewhere in between, there has to be credible evidence that the state is deploying all the efforts that it can in order to resolve some of these matters.
The Ghana Association of Banks, whose members rely heavily on bullion van services, has also expressed frustration. In an interaction with ChannelOne News, the association bemoaned the sluggish pace of investigations, but acknowledged that steps have been taken to tighten security protocols to avert future occurrences.
As unfortunate as these events have been, the investigation side has been a bit slow. We're working with the Ghana police or the officers at the CID headquarters monitoring the progress they are making on some of this investigation work. We put in place a new security arrangement and a framework, more or less, on how species has to be moved from one point to the other. And I'm sure you may have monitored that banks are now using armored Bullion vans. So the soft body vans that we used to see on the streets, pickups, converted into cash in transit vans, largely have disappeared. As banks, we've also fine-tuned our cash pickups. Hitherto, banks were going to Makola to pick 5,000, 10,000. These days, we don't do that. We've made arrangements with these customers, and the nearest cash point, they are making those deposits themselves. They don't wait for it to pile up, for it to become so significant, for it to become attractive to these fraudsters and criminals. The good thing is, since the new Minister for Interior came in, he's already called a meeting on the issue. So the Bank of Ghana, ourselves, the police, and the ministry met again. The ministry is putting together a master plan of how do you procure these bullion vans, how are they certified, so from procurement to disposal. And even when the bullion van is no more in use, how do you dispose of? Because you should know that a bullion van can also be a security threat.
Despite the seeming delays of a probe into such tragic incidents, the assurance from the Ghana Association of Banks is that adequate measures have been rolled out in conjunction with the various security agencies to forestall any future occurrences. Reporting for ChannelOne News, Ni Ayukwe Okai.